So we'll look at the giant exterminations, plural, in the land. Now, why the land? Why did these things, these supernatural beings, the children of the watcher angels, why did they go to the land? Why didn't they go to China? They could have gone to the Americas. Anyway, well, Genesis 3:15 makes sense. Satan knew Scripture. Jesus encountered Satan in the desert, remember? And he's quoting Scripture. So they know the deal. They know what's going on. They know the prophecy. The seed of the woman will crush the serpent. They know what's going on. So one of the views, Bullinger's belief, I call it, Bullinger's belief, he was a dispensationalist. I'm not a dispensationalist, but Bullinger, I think, got it right, that this was, the Genesis 6 event was done in order to disrupt the prophecy of the seed, the coming of the Messiah. They wanted to corrupt that line, but it got worse. It ended up almost corrupting all of us. That was the strategy. That was Bullinger's belief. By the way, the Greek translation of those Hebrew scriptures for Nephilim, they have gigantes, transliterated. It means giants. But I read a commentary that said that literal translation is earthbound, which would make sense, because why would the account of Genesis 6 say that if they were human beings, why would they be we're all earthbound? But anyway, I wanted to run that by you. Dr. Michael Heiser's, one of his books is called Reversing Hermon, or Hermon, H-E-R-M-O-N. Why? Because in the Enoch literature that we'll go to, where we really get this fleshed out in detail. There's 60 chapters of this book, this first Enoch. Mount Hermon is famous because that's where these angels, watcher angels, who become fallen angels, bad angels, descended upon. Enoch calls the sons of God watchers. Watchers also appears in the book of Daniel for a name for a type of angel. So it's just another name for a type of angel who we believe are the sons of God of Genesis 6. Some turn bad, but obviously in the book of Daniel they're portrayed as these watchers are good angels. Mount Hermon is like a chain of mountains presently near the border to Lebanon. So it's north of Israel on the border. And it's it's replete with mysticism. Ancient Near East has a lot of stories about this mountainous region. And one of them is this, that the Bible puts it in a historical context that these watcher angels came down, and that's where they get together. That's where they hatched their plan to do what they did. Og is a very key figure, especially in Jewish mystical writings, as they're called. Not Enoch as such, but in other writings which are mystical Jewish things, like the Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism. Og is a very important figure because in one of the stories of this Jewish mysticism is that he pleaded with Noah to save him from the flood. And he repented, and he said, anyway, Noah believed this guy, this giant. He said, okay, just go on the roof of the ark. And this thing survived the flood, but then later recanted it and went back to his wicked ways. So he is the new father, let's call it, of these giants. That's why Genesis 6 says there were giants back then and then afterwards. So some Jews made up this story. I say made up because there's no biblical. Nonetheless, he's in the Bible, Og. And look where he's ruling. He's ruling over Mount Hermon. Why is he ruling over Mount Hermon? Well, maybe it has a connection. So that was Joshua 12. In the following chapter, there's more information. For example, in verse 12, the whole kingdom of Og in Basham, who reigned in so-and-so, he was the last of the Rephites. Rephites, it's another name, Rephaim or Rephites, for these children, the Nephilim. And then, furthermore, it says, Joshua 13:12, Moses had defeated them and taken over their land. Now it says he was the last, but really he wasn't the last one. 2 Samuel 5, starting in verse 17. So the point here, folks, is that these things are like cockroaches. You know, you think you got them, and then they spring up somewhere else. By the way, verse 5 there, the brother of Goliath. There's some debate, as usual, with some things in the Bible, whether this was... No, but right there it says the brother of Goliath. So there was another Goliath-type person, actually called, in 2 Samuel 21, the parallel to this, it's also called Goliath. So, but I think it's just simply a brother of this Goliath. So these things are all over the place. A couple of maps there. From the north, like I said, modern-day Lebanon, all the way down to Jerusalem, surrounding Jerusalem. And the interesting thing is the Valley of Hinnom, the map of Bill Schlegel, a resident Bible Atlas man. And so it's interesting that we read the Valley of Rephaim, or the Valley of the Giants, is adjacent. It's really next to the Valley of Hinnom. Now, you know why the Valley of Hinnom is famous. Gehenna, what's Gehenna? In the book of Joshua, I believe, they were conducting pagan nations sacrifices of children, and they had a burning, this valley was used as a sort of burning pyre or whatever. One thing a resident Bible Atlas scholar said to me, if you're going to use my maps, please mention this. Hinnom, the Gehenna, he says, Bill says, it's a medieval story, it's a made-up story that during the time of the apostles, during the time of Jesus, they were still using this as a perpetual burning sort of dumping place. He says that's not true. You probably have heard that in preachings, in sermons, that yes, that's what Jesus said, you know, fear the one who will destroy you because you don't want to be thrown into the Gehenna. And you probably have heard it. I have heard it that, oh, well, at that time, actually, at Jesus' times, they were using it still for, but apparently that's a myth. So Bill just wanted me to communicate that. So they're all over the place, these things. You got different names for them. You got Emim, so from the fallen ones, the Nephilim, the giants, the same names, you have descendants. So Emim, Horim, Rephaim, different names. Zamzumim, Anak or Enoch, which is red. That's why we're reading these accounts. Arba, Og, the king Og, Goliath and his brothers. So these things are all over the place. They have multiplied in a way, and they need to be exterminated from the land. Remember, this is before Christ, so Messiah still hasn't been born. So they're very active, right? They're actively trying to, in a way, choke out the Davidic line, if you will, overcrowded.